In today's video, we'll be going over some very important Bitcoin chart as we try to determine where we are in the current market cycle. I'll also be sharing with you one of the key methods that I use to evaluate if I should be investing in an altcoin. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Let's jump right into the video. As we normally do, I'll kick us off with the Bitcoin chart. We can see that we have now crawled right back above $95,000. We are still well within this range that we've been in for quite a while after bouncing from the 91.5K mark. Now, in terms of the progress we're making on the head and shoulders pattern, you can see that we broke down from this right shoulder. Now, everyone is debating whether or not we will see further downside for Bitcoin or if we potentially bounce from here. We can see that we bounce from this level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And it's actually pretty rare for Bitcoin to tap into a support level and bounce off of it this many times. Now, if you've subscribed to the channel in the past week, you know that my base case is that we will likely move lower here, but we cannot downplay the fact that we have once again bounced from this range low. I'll make sure to keep you updated as the Bitcoin price develops. And if you want to stay updated, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you turn on that notification bell because I will be posting almost every single day of this year. Now, another interesting chart that I wanted to show you that we haven't talked about in a while is the ETH Bitcoin chart. And I completely agree with what Alejandro is saying here. Everyone is looking at Bitcoin. I'm looking at ETH Bitcoin. Am I stupid? So we've talked about this ETH Bitcoin range for a very long time on the channel, and we talked about how monetary policy impacts this chart. When we're in quantitative tightening, ETH Bitcoin tends to go down, and when we're in quantitative easing, ETH Bitcoin tends to go up. Now, fingers crossed in 2025, we will see quantitative easing, and that could be the bottom for ETH Bitcoin before it moves on much higher. As always, this is extremely important for altcoins. People may think that Ethereum is a dinosaur coin, but I completely disagree, and it will have its time to shine. And when Ethereum finally starts to sustainably outperform Bitcoin, so will the rest of the altcoin market, which is why it's very important that you keep your eyes on this chart. Is this the low for Bitcoin at around 0.034? Maybe, maybe not. But it is still a relatively attractive level to enter ETH if you're willing to exchange some of your Bitcoin for Ethereum. Because I think that overall in 2025, Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin and we will see this pair go much higher into the year. And another chart for you that really puts things in perspective, as Dan Crypto Trades puts it, the total crypto market cap is still just consolidating above its previous all-time high. The higher time frame uptrend is still very much intact. Zoom out. And this is what I've been talking about on this channel. Yes, in the short term, there was a little bit of volatility with Bitcoin, especially towards the downside, and you can always trade these moves. But in terms of holding your spot portfolio, you shouldn't be panicking because the uptrend in the total crypto market cap is still very much intact. We're literally consolidating above the previous all-time high. I mean, what more can you ask? I know that for a lot of you, this might be your first crypto bull market, but you just need a little bit of patience. Trust me on this one. And something that suggests this even further is the fact that Bitcoin is tracking the 2017 cycle. The red line is Bitcoin now, and the yellow line is Bitcoin from 2016 to 2017. The resemblance is uncanny. We are literally tracking that previous bull market to a T. Now, you'll know that in one of my previous videos, we went over the fact that Bitcoin always has this early correction in the post-halving year, specifically in January. Also, it's been tracking the past few market cycles quite accurately, but this market cycle is mimicking the 2016-2017 market cycle the most, and it's almost perfectly the same. This tells me, and it should tell you, that we are exactly where we need to be in this market cycle. Now, you may question how much longer this can go on, seeing as there is so much more interest in the crypto space and in Bitcoin in particular this market cycle. And while over a long enough period of time, Bitcoin will have diminishing returns, it still suggests to me that 2025 as a whole will be very bullish for crypto, and you shouldn't deny that. And something else that suggests the same, Michael Saylor, of course, tweeted about the Bitcoin spot ETFs. In year one, the Bitcoin spot ETFs did $36 billion in inflows. Yes, $36 billion. Now compare that to year one of the gold ETF. Look at that chart. How can you not be bullish on Bitcoin and the crypto space? Yes, I understand some of the dips can have you panicking, but guys, look at the numbers. You cannot deny this. Now, I will say that we are in a bull market, so I think that the inflows overall for Bitcoin will be higher. Like, for example, in this year, I think we'll see similar inflows, if not even more. But in year three, the comparison will be made for 2026, and that's where I think we will likely see far less inflows because, of course, 2026 is a bear market. But overall, the trend is super positive. Now, if you're new to the channel, you know that my thesis is that we will likely move a little bit lower here and altcoins will continue to bleed, suggesting that we will have a better opportunity to buy Bitcoin and buy altcoins. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have any kind of allocation in the market, because Bitcoin always tends to surprise us. And if it decides to move on much higher from here, it will take the rest of the altcoin market with it. This is the next stage of the market that I think we're getting into, and that is the easy mode. We're not there yet, but I think that we are gradually getting there. And what this mode represents is that altcoins will outperform Bitcoin, and many of them will go up 5 to 10x in a matter of weeks to a matter of a couple months. But, and this is a huge caveat, the reality is that it will actually be the hardest phase of the market to navigate. And you might be wondering why. If it's called easy mode and altcoins are exploding left, right, and center, why on earth would it be difficult to navigate? Well, that is the stage of the market where everyone's greed gets the best of them. You will see your altcoins do a 5 to 10 to maybe even 20x, but you won't take profit. And that's a harsh reality in crypto. You see the number on your portfolio going up, but you fail to take profit. Guys, take it from me first, do not make that mistake. It sounds easier said than done, but there will be a moment where your portfolio is at astronomical levels and you simply won't want to take profits because you think that it will go higher. My recommendation there would be to dollar cost average out of the market. Let's say your favorite altcoin does a 3x and you were hoping for a 5x. At a 3x, you have to understand that you have multiplied your money by 3. And so I would recommend to already start dollar cost averaging out of the market. Then when you make it to a 5x, you can dollar cost average even more out of the market. And what I also suggest is to leave a little bit of a moon bag. That way, if your altcoin continues to explode and does those 10, 20x's, at least you have some kind of exposure to the market. Always remember, it's better to wish that you had bought more of an altcoin than regretting that you had bought too much. And speaking of altcoins, we can see that on the others Bitcoin chart, this weekly candle is indeed closing red, which is unfortunate as we experience a lot of resistance at this previous all-time high from the past bull market cycle. Eventually, I do think that we will move much higher, and my hope for this cycle is that we will see others, which is all the cryptocurrencies outside of the top 10, reach somewhere around the $700 to $800 billion mark, which would hopefully provide at least a 2x in the others market cap, fueling a crazy altcoin rally this year. Okay, so that covers where I think that we currently are in the market cycle. But in my intro, I alluded to the fact that I would go over how we should be evaluating altcoins and if they are good buys. Well, in my opinion, one of the number one ways to do this is to evaluate the given altcoin against Bitcoin. For example, here we have the XRP Bitcoin chart. And we can see that 2 market cycles ago, it performed extremely well against Bitcoin, exploding to the upside. Now, of course, this is the monthly chart, but you can see that we are still kind of at the range lows here, suggesting that XRP could very well outperform Bitcoin for the rest of this bull market. Now, why do I say that? If we take a look at the weekly chart, we can see that we kind of made this double bottom here, and it would suggest to me that XRP against Bitcoin is ready to move higher. Now, the reason why this is important and you want to look for coins at the bottom of this range is because, as Benjamin Cowan puts it, altcoins are oscillators at best. Now, you might be wondering what exactly that means. Well, we can see that this is essentially the defined range for XRP against Bitcoin. And if they're oscillators at best, it means that they oscillate from highs to lows. Now, in my opinion, it's very unlikely that we make it all the way to the top here around this 0.4 level. But if we are closer to the bottom and we have kind of formed that double bottom pattern on a longer time frame, it would suggest to me that there is still a lot more upside for XRP against Bitcoin. Now, if we take another example, now let me take Solana as another example. Well, if we draw the same range for Solana against Bitcoin, what can we see? And that is the fact that Solana is actually closer to the top of the range than it is to the bottom, which if we assume that altcoins are oscillator at best against Bitcoin, it would suggest that we're pretty close to the top of this range, and it's more and more unlikely that Solana breaks out of here. Now, obviously, this is comparing Solana against Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin explodes to the upside, the US dollar valuation of Solana can, of course, go much higher, but it's determined by if Bitcoin drags it much higher. So if you see any kind of charts like this, I would be a little bit cautious because the asset has already outperformed Bitcoin. And if we're under the assumption that it will only oscillate against Bitcoin in the long term, then we should assume that this is a little bit of a less attractive chart. This is why it tends to be a little bit easier to trade altcoins that have previous history against Bitcoin versus something like SUI, which is the talk of the town in this cycle. Now we can see that the SUI Bitcoin chart has just been going parabolic this bull market cycle, but because we don't have a predefined range, it can indeed go much higher. So what I'm getting at here is that once altcoins do establish some kind of history in previous bull market cycles, we can then evaluate them much more accurately. But for SUI, it's literally anyone's guess as to how high it can go on its Bitcoin valuation. But as always, the higher Bitcoin goes, the more it can drag up the rest of the altcoin market. Now, overall, I am against chasing all these shiny new altcoins, but if there are any solid projects that have come to light this bull market cycle, they're likely to be even better performers this bull market cycle because they don't have the baggage of previous cycles. As we can see on the Solana chart, I don't think that over the course of this bull market, it's very likely that Solana against Bitcoin explodes to the upside here. And if it does, in my opinion, it would be a deviation because it has this baggage from the previous bull market cycle. So if we were to explode to the upside, and let's say we break out of this range, I do think we would come right back down, and in the next bear market, Solana would likely come back down to these levels against its Bitcoin pair, which is why we always say they are oscillators at best. In 10 years from now, there is a strong likelihood that the altcoins that you are speculating on now might not be around, but we know for sure that Bitcoin will be around. This is why it's very important to evaluate your altcoins against Bitcoin, because if it's not at least outperforming Bitcoin in 2025, then in my opinion, you're being stupid because you're taking on more risk for less reward. If you wanted that kind of reward, you would park yourself in Bitcoin. You have to remember that the reason why you're in altcoins is to hopefully outperform Bitcoin during the bull market. And if your altcoin isn't outperforming Bitcoin, especially in 2025, as I think the altcoin market will heat up, then you seriously need to take another look at your portfolio. And let me wrap up today's video with a little bit of optimism. Everyone who is here in the markets for more than 6 years is not surprised at all to see the current price action, as I've been talking about. And everyone knows exactly that this range is just another range to shake out the weak hands. We all know it's up only, hold. Now, I wouldn't go as far to say that it's only up only because we have seen some dips, but I definitely echo Dr. Profit's optimism for the markets in 2025. And lastly, a tweet from an OG in the industry. We have Altcoin Daily. The CEO of Ripple just had dinner with Donald Trump, and we are days away from having a pro-crypto administration. I just bought more Bitcoin. I just bought more quality altcoins. 2025 will be crypto's best year ever. Now, I sincerely hope that this is the case, and especially if the Fed starts printing money in 2025, we could be lining up for one of the most explosive latter stages of a bull market ever. And that sums up today's quick market update. Overall, just make sure you're staying patient and you don't get shaken out of this market, as I've been talking about week over week over week. And of course, if you're actively trading the markets, make sure to click the first link in my description. It brings you to Weeks, which is one of the top exchanges in the industry, and you can earn up to $20,000 in bonuses for signing up with my link alone. First link in my description. As always, nothing that I talk about on this channel should be construed as financial advice, and always make sure to do your own research. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.